Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review this new Amazon drama, On a Wing and a Prayer. And this tells the story of Doug White and his family who must take control of a plane when their pilot dies as they're returning from Doug White's brother's funeral. A lot of death in this movie within the first 15-20 minutes. But the basic crux of this film is how is Doug, played by Dennis Quaid, his wife, played by Heather Graham, and their daughter's going to make it out of here safe. And you have this web of different supports from Jesse Metcalf, who's a former pilot that could potentially help. You have the people in the control room, and you also have some random little girl who wants to be a pilot who's basically commentating this whole entire thing for us. A lot of moving pieces in this particular drama, but and a very big base foundation of faith that's centered around this. And if you couldn't tell from the title, On a Wing and a Prayer, this film is directed by Sean McNamara, who has a very interesting filmography. Worked on Soul Surfer and Even Stevens and The King's Daughter, which is that Pierce Brosnan movie with a mermaid that came out last year that took 8 years to come out. There's definitely some moments where it's maybe it gets a little sloppy, and maybe it's, especially with some of the special effects, you could tell this is a smaller budget film. Plane doesn't look great most of the time, but this film is able to balance having a faith-based message without being ridiculously overbearing about it and actually delivering a pretty moving and hopeful message. And I appreciated that about this film because you don't really get to... There's a lot of films that are faith-based today that their sole purpose is the message, and a lot of the other things around it are forgotten. This one, you feel like it bolsters the story, it adds those themes to it. But really when it comes down to it, is this family doing whatever they can to get out safely. And you have all these side characters, and some of them feel a little bit more important than others. I feel like they could have just completely cut that little girl storyline. I don't feel like it added anything to this film. But it's really Dennis Quaid who's giving a fantastic performance as Doug White here. And the emotion, the tension, the anxiety that he has to show trying to make this whole thing work. It's moving, it's impressive, it hits. This particular story, you know where it's going. I feel like it doesn't beat you over the head with too many oh, then another thing happened. It feels like it's paced well, structured well, that it doesn't feel like it's being too over the top and ridiculous that it starts making you disconnect from what you're watching. On some level, I think this really does work in that way. It builds the tension naturally. There's plenty of suspense and thrills along the way. And you care about this family, and they do enough to make this intriguing and an engaging experience, even if you know exactly what's going to happen. You know what most of the time somebody's going to say. But it is still a real rock-solid kind of drama that's right there on Amazon. I think it's worth a watch, and honestly, with the holiday weekend, with Easter, I think this is coming out at the right time. I think it'll be a nice film that you could sit down with your family, bond over, and then find some appreciation because you just watch another family go through a near-death experience. But those are my thoughts on A Wing and a Prayer. Let me know what you think, and let's talk some movies. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.